There's a strange guilt that creeps in when you pause. It's like a whisper in your ear asking, shouldn't you be doing something? Even when your body's begging for rest, your mind pulls you back to the grind. In our world, rest often feels like a crime. We treat it like something we have to earn. It's like a dessert after finishing your vegetables. The message is everywhere on motivational posters, in the stories we admire, and in the way people talk. Sleep when you're dead, work hard, play hard. No pain, no gain. These sayings sound strong, but they come with a heavy cost. A cost we rarely stop to measure, because we're too busy pushing ourselves to keep up. We live in a culture that glorifies being busy. If you're not productive, you're falling behind. If you take a break, you're wasting time. So we fill our calendars. We stack tasks on top of tasks. And when there's a rare moment of stillness, we panic. We don't know how to be still without feeling guilty. Because we've been taught that value equals output. That if we're not doing something, we're not worth something. But this belief, this hustle mindset, doesn't just appear. Something we absorb from a very young age. From school bells and report cards. From praise for being hardworking over curious. Rest becomes a luxury, not a necessity. It becomes something you have to earn. Something you only get after you've proven yourself. And when you haven't done enough for the day, whatever that means, you feel like you don't deserve to rest. You lie in bed but can't sleep. Your body is tired, but your brain is still running laps. Did I do enough? What if I just push a little more? The goalpost keeps moving. Even when you reach it, another one appears, and the cycle continues. You become addicted to productivity. And not because you love it, but because you fear what happens when you stop. You fear being called lazy. You fear becoming irrelevant.
Nice. So you ignore the signs.
The tightness in your chest, the exhaustion in your bones, the short fuse you didn't used to have. All signals from your body begging you to slow down, but you keep going. Because that's what you were taught. Slowing down is weakness. But here's the truth. You're not a machine. Even machines need to power down. Your body isn't a factory line. Your mind isn't a production tool. You are a human being, not a human doing. What if rest didn't have to be justified? What if it wasn't something to deserve? What if it was your right from the moment you woke up because you're alive? You rarely ask. Who benefits from us always being tired? Who profits when we believe rest must be earned? Maybe it's not laziness they fear, but our clarity when we're rested. Because when you're well rested, you ask better questions. You stop accepting burnout as normal. You begin to see through the illusion. The illusion that your worth is tied to your to-do list. That peace is something at the end of a finish line. That you'll rest after you've earned it. But that finish line keeps shifting. And one day, you wake up and realize you've been running all your life and you're still tired. Maybe it's time to stop running. Maybe it's time to challenge the narrative. To question the voice that says, not yet. You haven't done enough. Because that voice doesn't know your body. Doesn't feel the weight you carry. Doesn't live inside your tired chest. Rest isn't the reward. It's the foundation. It's the ground that holds everything else together. When you begin to honor it not as a luxury but as a birthright, something softens inside you. The guilt doesn't vanish, but it loses power. You breathe deeper. You move slower. You begin to trust that rest has wisdom, that stillness has answers, that your worth was never tied to your output in the first place. It was always there, quiet, steady, breathing with you, waiting for you to return. So rest. Not later, not when you've earned it. Now, because you exist. Because you are, because that's enough. From a young age, we're taught that rest is something we earn. Finish your homework, then you can play. Work hard, then you can relax. It sounds innocent, even responsible. But the hidden message is, you must prove your worth to rest, that you don't get to slow down unless you've been productive. Over time, this becomes internalized. We feel guilty for resting when we haven't done enough. Even if our bodies ache or our minds are weary, it's as if rest must be justified. Like a luxury, not a human need. But that's not how the human body works. You don't earn the right to breathe by holding your breath first. You don't earn the right to sleep only after a perfect day. Rest is a natural rhythm. And yet hustle culture tells us otherwise, praises burnout, and calls it dedication. It rewards those who sacrifice sleep and ignore pain. But this isn't noble, it's harmful. It disconnects us from ourselves. When you ignore your need to rest, you lose more than energy. You lose clarity, connection, and joy. You begin to live on autopilot. We've been conditioned to feel lazy for taking a break. Guess if our worth is measured only by output. But that's a lie. Your rest is not indulgent. It's not selfish. It's not something you have to earn. It's a birthright, a basic need, and a foundation for living well. The irony, when you rest, you often do better. Your focus improves, your creativity flows. But we shouldn't rest just to become more productive. That still treats rest as a means to an end. Rest should be an end in itself. You rest because you are alive. Because you have a body that needs recovery, because you're allowed to just be. So if you've been waiting for permission to rest, let this be it. You don't need to earn it. You don't need to reach a milestone first, or cross everything off your list. You don't need to be exhausted to deserve a break. Your rest is not a reward. It's a right. One you can reclaim at any moment. Why does rest feel heavy with guilt? Why do we lie down, but carry anxiety with us? Why does silence feel like failure? Because we've been taught to measure time and productivity. If we're not doing, we think we're wasting. But not every hour is meant to be filled. Some hours are meant to be empty, to simply be lived, to breathe, stare out the window, or lie still. But that kind of stillness? It's not easy in a world that glorifies busy. We often feel like we're falling behind when we pause. Social media doesn't help. Everyone seems to be achieving something. Everyone's moving, so we think we should be too. But here's the truth. Everyone's tired. Most people are just hiding it. We've normalized exhaustion. We brag about how little sleep we got, wear our burnout like a badge of honor. And so when you choose rest, it can feel rebellious. It can feel wrong. You wonder if you've earned it yet. You feel like you have to explain it or apologize for it. But no one asks a tree why it's still in winter. No one shames the moon for disappearing a few nights. We accept that nature has cycles. So why not you? Why not allow yourself your own quiet seasons? Why not let your rest be natural too? You're not lazy for needing a pause. You're not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You're human. Some days, rest is the bravest thing you can do, especially when guilt whispers you shouldn't, especially when your mind tries to resist. Rest is not a luxury. It's not a reward for productivity. It's a reset for your soul. You don't have to earn your place in the world by constantly doing. You already have a place, even when you're still, even when you do nothing. And in that nothing, something sacred happens. Your heart softens, your breath deepens. You remember that being is enough, that you are enough, even when you stop, especially when you stop, because it means you're listening, not to the world, but to yourself. So when the guilt comes, greet it with kindness. Tell it you're not doing anything wrong. Tell it you're healing. Tell it you're honoring your needs. Tell it that you no longer believe the lie that says your value is in your usefulness. The lie that says rest must be earned, that your worth is conditional. Rest is not a break from life. It is life. It is where you come home to yourself, to the quiet parts you've been ignoring, to the stillness that makes space for clarity, to the peace that comes without achievement. This is how you reclaim your rhythm, not by pushing through, but by honoring your pauses. And it might feel strange at first. You might twitch with guilt or reach for your phone. That's okay. It takes time to unlearn old patterns. It takes courage to choose stillness and gentleness to stay there. But with each breath, with each quiet hour, you remember, you don't need to be useful to be valuable. You don't need to hustle to deserve peace. You don't need to prove your exhaustion. You are allowed to rest, not later now. Not once you're done while you're living. The guilt will fade. The anxiety will soften, and you'll begin to feel something else. A kind of calm, a kind of clarity, a kind of wholeness. Not because you did anything, but because you finally allowed yourself to stop, to breathe, to be. That's the gift of rest. It's not just for your body, but for your soul. In a world that glorifies constant motion, choosing rest is an act of rebellion. It says, I am not a machine. Rest pushes back against the pressure. against the idea that your only value is what you produce, against the noise that says keep going even when you're breaking. When you rest, you challenge the system that profits off your exhaustion, that measures your worth in output, deadlines, and results. But you are not output. You are not a spreadsheet or a performance review. You are breath. You are heartbeat, your presence. And when you honor your need for rest, you're reclaiming your humanity. You're saying, I matter even when I do nothing. It's powerful. That's radical. Because the world doesn't expect it. The world expects you to feel guilty, to apologize for naps and slow mornings, to fill every second with noise. But rest is how you resist being consumed. It's how you stay whole in a fractured world. It's how you stay soft in a culture that hardens people. Rest isn't laziness. It's a form of wisdom, a deep, intuitive knowing that you can't pour from an empty cup. And it's not just about sleep. It's about space. It's a space to think, to feel, to reconnect with yourself. Maybe that looks like turning off your phone. Maybe it's walking slowly, or saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. Maybe it's stepping away from the noise and letting silence speak for a while. Not to fix anything, but to simply be. Because when you rest, you hear things you couldn't before. Your inner voice grows clearer. Your body whispers what it's been trying to say. I'm tired. I need time. I miss feeling like myself. And instead of pushing through, you pause. You listen. But that listening is sacred. It's not something you need to justify. It's not a luxury, it's a return. A return to your natural rhythm. A return to your boundaries. A return to the truth of who you are. Resting doesn't mean giving up. It means you're valuing what lasts. Your peace, your clarity, your well-being. It's easy to get swept away by urgency. To believe every email, every call, every task is life or death, but very little actually is. Most of what feels urgent isn't. Most of what feels critical can wait. And what can't wait is you, your health, your heart. When you stop, the world doesn't collapse. When you slow down, life continues. It even gets quieter, gentler. You don't owe anyone your constant availability. You don't owe the world your burnout. You are allowed to protect your energy. Rest is how you remember your limits, how you reconnect to what matters. How you say, I am not here to be consumed, you are here to live, not efficiently, but meaningfully. And that means sometimes stepping back, sometimes doing nothing, sometimes saying, I need time. It's not selfish, it's survival. It's self-respect. So when the world demands more, you can choose less. And in doing so, choose yourself. You don't have to apologize for it. You don't have to earn it. You just have to honor it. Rest is resistance. Rest is self-love. Rest is wisdom. And every time you choose it, you are choosing to live differently, to live slower, softer, freer. That's not failure. That's freedom. One of the quiet tragedies of modern life is feeling like you must prove you're tired enough to rest. Like exhaustion is the only permission slip. You don't take breaks unless you've earned them. You don't pause unless you're falling apart. You keep going, even when you're unraveling inside. But that belief, that rest must be deserved, it's a lie. You don't have to reach the edge. You don't have to collapse in order to pause. You don't need bruises or breakdowns to justify breathing. Rest is not something you win. It is something you need. Like water, like air, like sunlight. There is no prize for pushing past your limit. There's no glory in burnout, only emptiness. But still, we're taught to keep earning our rest, to schedule it after everything else is done. But what if the everything else never ends? The emails keep coming. The dishes pile up again. So the world doesn't pause, we don't either. And so we live in a loop. Always tired, always pushing, always promising we'll slow down next week. But rest delayed becomes rest denied. The body remembers every moment it was ignored. The mind keeps track of every time you silenced its cry. You don't have to look exhausted to take a break. You don't need to wait for others to validate your need. You don't need permission to care for yourself. Tired can mean more than sleepy. It can mean emotionally drained. It can mean overstimulated, touched out, decision fatigued. And yes, sometimes rest isn't about naps. It's about boundaries. It's about saying, I've had enough for today. You are allowed to rest before you fall apart. You are allowed to stop because you want to, not because you have to. You are allowed to breathe, to pause, to step back. The world may not applaud it. It might even question you. But your rest is not up for debate. It doesn't have to look productive. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It only has to feel like a return to yourself. Maybe that means closing your laptop. Maybe it means saying no to plans. Maybe it means taking a walk with no destination. There are no rules here. Rest doesn't need to be structured. It just needs to be honest. And sometimes the most radical thing you can do is listen when your body whispers enough, instead of waiting for it to scream. The world might tell you to push through, to hustle, to grind, to sacrifice. But your soul is asking for softness, and softness is strength too. It takes courage to slow down, to choose peace over performance. There is nothing noble in always being busy. There is nothing wise about being worn out. You were not born to be a machine. You were born to feel, to live deeply, to move with presence. And presence requires rest. So today, pause without guilt. Close your eyes without apology. Turn inward without shame. You are not lazy for needing space. You are not weak for saying I'm tired. You are human. And humans need rest. Regularly, freely, without permission, without proving why. So give yourself what you were never taught to claim. Rest is a right, not a trophy, not a prize, not an afterthought. Rest because you're alive. Not because you're barely hanging on. It's not because you've earned it. Rest because you exist, and that is reason enough. It always has been, always will be. You don't need to explain your rest. You don't need to justify your peace. You just need to believe you deserve it. Let that be your quiet truth. Let that be your gentle revolution. Choosing rest even when no one else understands it, especially then, because that's when it matters most. That's when it heals deepest. You are allowed to rest, not because you're tired, but because you're worthy. We've been taught that being busy is a badge of honor, that burnout is something to brag about, that sleep is for the weak and rest is for the lazy. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if the ones who rest are the strongest among us? Because they know how to listen when their body whispers. The culture of overachievement says, keep pushing. No pain, no gain. Rest when you're dead. But life is not a race to the finish. It's not about who gets there fastest. It's about who's present enough to actually live it. Some people feel guilty when they sit down, like they need to earn their right to breathe, like stillness is a sin. But guilt is not a guide. It's a shadow left behind by other people's expectations. You don't need to carry it anymore. You're allowed to pause. Not because you finished your to-do list, but because you're human. Your worth is not measured by your output. You are not a machine. Even machines need maintenance. Rest is not a delay. It's part of the process. It's where growth often hides. In the stillness, you'll find clarity. In the silence, you'll hear what you've been missing. In the pause, you'll meet yourself again. You can rest even if there are dishes in the sink. Even if the inbox isn't empty. Even if the world is still spinning fast. The world won't fall apart if you slow down. But you might fall apart if you don't. And you deserve to stay whole. So give yourself permission. Not because you've earned it, because you exist. You are not a machine. You don't need to output endlessly to justify stillness. You were never meant to run on empty. Rest is not a break from life. It is a vital part of living. It sustains you. It is not earned through exhaustion. It is not something you trade productivity for. It is something you deserve, unconditionally. In a world that tells you to keep going, rest becomes a form of quiet rebellion, a way of saying, I am not defined by how much I produce. You are not only worthy when you're efficient. You are not only lovable when you are helping. You are not only valuable when you're achieving. Even on days when you do nothing productive, you are still someone who matters. Your value does not diminish. The pressure to perform never ends on its own. It must be interrupted by your own decision to stop, to pause without guilt. Guilt has no place in your rest, because rest is not indulgence, it's necessity. It's part of your well-being, not a distraction from it. You are allowed to say, I am tired. I need space. I need softness, and not explain further. You do not owe anyone an explanation for taking care of yourself, for choosing ease over exhaustion. There's nothing lazy about restoration. In fact, it takes courage to step away from the grind and return to yourself. We often think the world will fall apart if we stop, but maybe what falls apart is only the illusion that we must earn our existence. Your worth was never meant to be measured in hours clocked or tasks completed. It was always inherent. Imagine a life where rest is not withheld, not postponed to the weekend, but embraced daily as nourishment. What if you rested before you burned out? What if you didn't need a breakdown to justify a break? What if you treated your body not as an obstacle to overcome, but as a home to care for? The world profits from your tiredness, or a belief that rest is something to be earned. But the truth is, it's yours by birthright. So take the nap, go on the walk. Say no when you mean it. Let your soul breathe, let your mind go quiet, let your body be still. You don't have to apologize for being human, for needing time. Productivity will not heal your fatigue. Achievement will not fill your emptiness. Only rest can meet you where you truly are. It's okay to be still. It's okay to not have the answers. It's okay to stop. Rest isn't running away. It's returning home. To yourself. You are not behind for needing rest. You are not weak for needing care. You are simply alive and responding accordingly. There is strength in surrender. There is wisdom in stopping. There is beauty in silence. And maybe the most radical act of self-love is not pushing harder, but pausing with compassion. The next time your body whispers enough, listen and honor that truth, because you don't have to earn sleep. You don't have to earn peace. You don't have to earn rest. You are allowed to soften, to slow down, to disappear into quiet. The world can wait. Your soul cannot. It needs you now. So stop glorifying burnout. Stop measuring days by output. Start honoring the rhythms of your being. Choose gentle over relentless. Choose present over perfect. Choose rest again and again. Not as a treat, but as a truth. Because rest is not a reward, it is your right. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.